Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so welcome to the next lecture, that is 32 number lecture, and this is a continuation of what we have been discussing about potential appraisal, right. You remember we talked about potential appraisal and we said that in order to identify the potential, we need to use some kind of assessment to see whether the person has the potential or not. It is not only the question of potential, but it is also a question of whether the person has the right kind of potential or not, right. So, we will talk about some of the potential appraisal methods and also how it is linked with other HR systems. Now, when we are going to talk about potential appraisal methods, okay, we need to see that what needs to be done in order to see that this potential is evaluated properly. Now, we will continue our discussion with the same slide that we have shown earlier, that performance versus potential matrix. Now, if you look at this, we need to assess both performance as well as potential of the employees. Now, when we are talking about performance assessment, we try to see that how well the person is going to perform in the current job. Now, the objective of potential assessment is that how a person is likely to perform in a given future identified job, right, and that is why we go for assessment of the potential, right, so that they can take up leadership positions. Now, if you look at this 9 box model, okay, the problem is with the first 3 boxes, where the person is not able to perform well, right. It means, you have to see what needs to be done even if a person is having a very high potential. Now, if you look at it, say rough diamond, right. Now, if you look at this part rough diamond, okay, it means that these people have the potential, but they are not able to perform well, and that is why they have been termed as rough diamond, right. Rough diamond means diamond it means that it is something that is not visible, right. It means that if the person is not able to realize his potential, he does not know what kind of potential he has. So, that needs to be polished through grooming, through coaching, through mentoring, and that is why and that actually helps him to realize his potential, right. Now, coming to the second box, box 2, where you have low performance and moderate potential, right. It means the person has some potential, but is not able to perform well. It means that he is an inconsistent player. Inconsistent players, but sometimes his performance is good, sometimes his performance is not very good. Okay. But on average his performance is being termed as low. Okay. Sometimes he is showing potential, sometimes he is not showing the potential, right. So, so the top management does not get any signal whether he is really having the potential, because his potential is not visible. Similarly, if his performance is low, he is not able to identify whether the person has been able to perform well or not. Okay. So, they need to be taken care, otherwise what will happen? They will continue to be inconsistent so far as their performance is concerned, right. Now, coming to the last box, that is the talent risk. It means these kind of individuals, what to do with them, right, because neither they have the potential, not they are able to perform well. So, now if you look at this third box, that is talent risk, what to do with them, because you cannot groom them, and since they are not able to perform. So, you need to take certain administrative decisions, like going for separations, okay, asking them to resign, because they actually would become burden. They are neither they are talented, nor they are able to perform well. So, this becomes a problem for the management, and what to do with such employees in the organization, right, because they are not showing any indication of good performance. Similarly, they do not have the potential which could be groomed and developed. Okay. So, management has to seriously think, because they become a risk for the organization. Okay. They become a liability for the organization, and that is why it is termed as talent risk. Moving to the next next 3 boxes, that is where you have moderate potential as well as moderate performance. Okay. Now, they are more or less what you call stable professionals. Okay. If you have moderate professionals, but high performance, right. So, they could be future stars, future leaders. Okay. They could be developed in such a way, so that they could take up leadership positions, because their performance is also consistent, good, and at the same time their potential is very good. Very good in the sense that they have all the relevant potential which could be developed by the individual and the organization with effort and ensure that they could take up leadership positions. Now, most of the managers fall in this category, that is key players. What I am trying to tell you here, that they perform well, but they also show some potential, a moderate level of potential. So, you cannot question them, because they would be doing their job very well up to the mark, or they would be meeting performance standards, but they also show that yes, they have the potential to grow and develop, right. But the problem with this, that what to do with these individuals? Are you going to exploit their potentials for the current performance or for future performance? Okay. Because they have been performing moderately as well as their potential is moderate. So, what to do with them? So, you need to retain such people, because they would continue to perform well and show their potential, right. Similarly, if you have such people who are performing well or at the moderate level, but they do not show their potential. It means moderate performance, but having low potential. So, they have been termed as solid professionals. Solid professional means what the organization is going to do with these kind of professionals? They need to continue in their jobs. Let them do what they are doing. They will continue to do their job. Okay, but the problem is that they could not be promoted, they could not be groomed and developed, because they do not have the potential. So, at the most they would be allowed to carry out or continue in their current job, right. Now, moving to the last three boxes, which talks about high potential, high performance, but if you look at this, that say box number 6, that is consistent star. Okay. Now, high performer and high potential, this is the risk category, because those who are performing very well and those who are having the potential also very high potential. So, what are the risks for the organization? Because since they have been consistently performing well, they have all the potential to be groomed and developed, but at the same time you have a risk of losing them. Okay. So, here you need to plan about their career growth, you need to see that you have a high performance career growth for them. You also need to see that they are being retained and managed well, otherwise there is always a possibility of such people being leaved by other organizations and they would leave. Okay. So, they could be, though they are consistently performing well, but they could also be put into the risk category, like low performer and low potential, you do not want them. Okay. You want to ensure that they leave the organization. Similarly, high performer and high potential also could be put into the same category. They are at risk because they could be leaved and attracted by other employers, and you are not going to leave them, you want to leave, do not want to leave them, that they are, but they are going to leave the organization. So, they again are going to be high risk category. Coming to the next one, where they are performing very well, but they have the moderate potential. So, they are the current stars. So, especially if you look if you look at this situation, those who are in future stars and current stars, they could be identified as future leaders, right. They could be groomed and developed to take up higher leadership positions, right. Similarly, if you look at the last one, like if you look at low performer and high potential, we said that okay, they need to be polished. Similarly, if you know that yes, they are high performer, but low potential, again what you are going to do with them? It means that in their current job they are performing very well, right. So, they would go through this normal career progression, right. You will retain them, they would be continuing their career because they have been performing very well, you cannot ask them to leave, but since they do not have the potential, you cannot do much with them. So, let them continue in their current job, right. Now, if you look at this performance versus potential matrix, the basic objective is to identify who could perform well, okay, who could be groomed. So, in this category we have identified future stars and current stars, because they are the people who could be groomed and developed in the future leaders. So far as rough diamond is concerned, you need to groom them and develop, so that they could be need to be polished, so that they come out and not only as high potential employees, but also high performing employees, right. The risk is with the talent, low performing and low potential as well as high performing high potential. One you want to leave them, the other they would leave you. So, they need to take, you need to take care of these two categories, and that is very, very important, right. So, after discussing this performance versus potential metrics, let us see what are some of the techniques that could be used. Like, you remember we talked about psychometric testing, right. Psychometric testings are basically used to identify certain traits and characteristics related to the individual, including your personality, right. So, the basic idea of using psychometric tests is to identify what are your aptitudes, abilities and personalities, right. There are a lot of tests which are available, standard tests which are available, which could be identified whether you have the specific attitude, what is your ability, what kind of ability you have, which may not be visible through your knowledge and skill, your qualifications and your personality, right. For example, the kind of personality that is required to be there in a lower level job would differ from a higher level job, right. So, when you take up leadership positions, so what kind of appropriate personality characteristics would be required for that leadership position, and whether these personality characteristics are there with you. So, that need to be exploited. That is why the role of these psychometric tests are very important when it comes to identifying the potential of the employees, right. Similarly, you can also go for interviewing them. Instead of using psychometric tests, you can identify their potential by interviewing the employees, looking into their past experiences, what kind of knowledge and experience they have, right. Situational interviews, how will they perform in a given job related to future positions, right. Or you can ask for go for behavioral interviews, behavioral event interview in fact, where you ask for certain behavioral descriptions related to a future or given job. See, most of these tests and interviews are held at assessment centers. Okay. So, assessment centers are having a very important role in the process when we are talking about the method of appraising potential. So, what we are going to talk about is methods of potential appraisal. Right. So, when we are talking about methods of potential appraisal and we are talking about assessing their attitude, abilities, personality. Okay. So, this is done through assessment center. Okay. Now, you should not be confused with what is an assessment center. Assessment center is not a center where you are going to assessment. Basically, it is a tool and a set of tools and techniques that could be used to assess your future potential, to identify whether you have the right kind of attitude, abilities and personalities or not. Okay. So, in assessment center we are using lot of tools and techniques and these tools and techniques could be basically psychometric in nature. And when we are talking about psychometric test, it means these tests are psychological in nature and these psychometric tests must have certain characteristics, like they should be standard test, there should be norms against which, okay, and you also look into these factors like reliability and validity. Okay. These are the essential conditions which need to be met when you are going to use any kind of psychometric tests for assessment of individual attitude, ability or personality, right. So, you must meet these three conditions, that is standards, norms and reliability and validity issues. Okay. So, make sure that when you are going to use a standard test, administration and measurement of the personality is uniform in nature. That is first, that is related to standard. Second is norms. It means that you are going to use a norm to compare the behavior of the employees with these norms, so that you know that on these tests where an employee stand, right. For example, as a part of the personality test, you are having a measure of say optimism and pessimism, right. This is a trait or characteristics of what you call personality, right. So, when we are going to measure optimism and pessimism on a bipolar dimension, right, and you are using a psychological test, a personality test to measure this, okay. You need to follow all these 3 characteristics which are important, and based on that, suppose you find that the person is here. What does it mean? So, there you have a 0 point. So, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 something like this. It means on a 6 point scale or 7 point scale, the person is here. It means that he and what is the standard that you expect? That so, you have a norm, right. So, this is used as a norm. So, you say that is you say that the person is high on optimism. How do you say? That is based on the norm that you have identified, right. So, if you are not able to identify the norm, you should not be able be in a position to say what is the level of optimism or pessimism is there. And since you think that this is a trait that is required as a potential by the candidate, okay, then you are going to measure it. Okay. So, assessment centers, you are using a lot of tools and techniques which are basically psychometric in nature, having certain characteristics, and you are going to make use of this to measure attitude, abilities and personalities of the individual, and basically this is done to identify the potential of the employees, right. So, it is very very important to see that how we are going to make use of this is, that is what we know as assessment center, okay, in identifying the potential of the employees. Right. So, moving to the next part, let us see that how we are going to do it. So, one such technique that could be used in the assessment center is leadership less group discussion, right. Now, let me discuss about what is a leaderless group discussion. Leaderless group discussion is that where you are having certain participants, okay, the participants may vary from 5 to 6, right, and then you are given a situation or you are given a problem to be solved, right, and then as a group you are supposed to come out with a solution, and then time is specified, that may be 30 minutes, 35 minutes, within which you are going to identify the problem, right. Now, the problem could be related to real life situations, right. But the most important thing with the leaderless group discussion is that you do not have a chairperson or a leader that is identified well in advance, right. So, in a leaderless group discussion, what happens that either you are given a problem and then you are asked to come out with a solution, or the group is supposed to identify a problem himself. So, that is there is another variation also in a leaderless group discussion. So, the group is going to identify a problem relevant to the job, okay, and then they are going to identify a leader. So, it involves 2 tasks: identifying a problem that is relevant for the job, it could be for the given job or for a higher level job, and then the most important aspect of this kind of group discussion is that leader is not identified in well in advance. Okay. So, the idea here is that let the group discuss and identify who is going to lead them. Okay. So, they need to identify the leader. Okay. So, here they need to identify the leader, and then they are going to follow the norms and values of the group in order to identify a problem, or if the problem is given, to solve the problem, right. So, the task in a leaderless group discussion is that whether you are able to identify as a group a problem that is relevant for the job, okay, and whether you are able to reach to a consensus so far as identifying a leader is concerned. Similarly, another concern that is very very important is that whether you are able to solve the problem if you are not able to identify a leader, right. So, there are a lot of variations that happens in a leaders less group discussion. Sometimes you are asked to identify a leader, sometimes you are not asked to identify a leader, and then everybody works equally well, right. It means that there is no leader also. That could be a third situation where you are going to identify a leader, or you are not supposed to identify a leader. So, there could be different kind of variations in this kind of group discussion, where you are going to select a problem or not, where you are going to select a leader or not, and whether as a group you are able to reach to a consensus to identify the solution of the problem or not. Okay. Okay. Now, how this is related with the potential appraisal, right. So, what are the qualities that you are looking into the people, right. So, suppose you have identified a problem and going by a leaderless group discussion, and you said that okay, you do not need to identify a leader, but everybody is going to work for this problem. Now, you have to see that out of this group discussion, who is emerging as a leader. Okay. You will find that somebody in the discussion taking up the leadership role, dominating the discussion, taking the certain decisions which are accepted by others, right. Now, if you are able to find out that somebody out of this group is emerging as a leader, having the qualities of leadership and being accepted by others as the leader of the group at a later stage, who is going to help you or the group to take a decision, then you can very well identify whether that this person has the leadership quality or not. Now, in a leaderless group discussion, the idea is that you want to identify the potential of leadership, right, and decision making. So, if you are giving a problem, okay, so naturally when the discussion goes on, somebody emerges as a leader. So, that could be identified as a potential leader, or you can identify that this person has the potential of leadership, or this person has the quality of leadership, right. So, these kind of leaderless group discussions helps you to identify the potential, and specifically this kind of discussions are used to identify leadership and the quality of leadership and how they are going to take decisions, right. Now, moving further, another technique that is used is known as in basket exercise, right. So, this is also a technique, this is an experiential technique actually, that is used to identify the potential of the employee, that who could be groomed and developed as future managers in the organization, right. So, in basket is a different kind of exercise, it is also a kind of simulated exercise, where you are going to trying to judge the potential of an employee related to doing a job. So, suppose there is an individual who needs to be promoted to a manager. Now, you want to assess that this person has been able to perform very well his current job, but whether he will be able to manage his future job effectively or not. So, you bring him to an assessment center and you are going to use this tool, that is in baskets technique, to see whether he can work effectively as future manager or not. So, you are going to create a situation where he is going to act like a future manager. Okay. So, it is a kind of simulated exercise that you are going to plan, right. Now, coming to the exercise, basically when we are talking about in basket exercise, it is nothing else but there is a basket in front of you on the table, where you are going to work as a manager, okay. And this basket may be containing lot of files which need to be disposed by you. Okay. It could be related to decision making, okay, problem solving, or certain other activities that is to be carried out by a future manager in a given job, right. So, when you are going to act as a future manager in this kind of exercise, you are supposed to take care of all the files that is there in the basket or tray. Okay. So, there is a tray, and then you are going to dispose of all the files that is given in the tray, okay. And then it is seen that how well you have been able to perform of a manager, which you are likely to succeed in the future. Okay. So, you may be asked to take certain decisions, there could be certain problems related to certain things in the organization which you are supposed to solve, right. So, all this ability is reflected by you in taking decisions and problem solvings, right. And if you are able to do well, it means that through this assessment it can be identified that yes, you could be a future manager, right. So, it may include lot of memos, telephone messages, notes, requests, all kind of things, right. And then there could be interruptions from visitors, telephone calls. So, because the job of the manager requires so. So, you are going to take care of everything within the given time frames, and it is seen that how well you are able to dispose of everything, right. And then it is seen that what is the level of your performance in the given job, right. So, there are certain qualities that could be measured like analytical skills, how a plan organize activities, how well you manage your time, because that will be the requirement of the future manager's job, right. So, based on the job analysis, you are going to have a description of a future manager's job. You put all the job description in the tray, including memos, phones, messages, and then you are going to manage effectively within the given time frame, and then your performance is evaluated in the assessment center to see how well you have been able to perform as a future manager using this exercise. Okay. So, the effectiveness of the quality of decision making, your time management and other kind of activities that you perform could be an indicator that yes, you have the potential to perform as a future manager, and that is how it becomes an indicator of your performance in future. There could be other simulated exercises that could be taken up like role plays, games, okay, and sometimes it is computer generated, right, or computer mediated, where you are going to perform a job. So, in all kind of simulated exercises that we discussed, like in a role play exercise, you are going to perform the role of a manager, and then it says that how you are going to perform there, right. Sometimes you are going to have games that is known as management games, and then it is seen that how well you play those games, because these kind of situations are going to arise on a regular basis in a future job, and see that how you are going to take it up. So, simulated games using computers, role plays, right, and other kind of structured exercises can be planned to see that identify and examine the level of potential that you have, but you must see that it should be relevant to the job, right. So, the basic idea of these simulated exercises that I have been talking about is to see that whether you are able to handle these jobs very well for a future managers or not, and whether you have the potential to take up these jobs or not. So, when you are going for succession plan or other kind of activities, these kind of exercises help in assessment centers to see and identify your potential very well. That is what I have been talking about, like role plays and presentations could also be used to see that how well you play, and then it is seen that how you behave in those roles, right. So, suppose a job requires certain qualities like conflict management, communication, flexibility, problem solving. So, whether during the role plays these kind of qualities are exercised by you or not. If these qualities are indicated and shown by you, it means that you have the potential, and if it is not shown, then it means that you do not have the potential. So, assessment centers also use these kind of tools and techniques to identify these kind of situations where you play a role and then it is identified. Now, the basic idea, as I told you, that in any career planning setting is to any potential appraisal to see that you need to be groomed to take up senior level positions. So, it is related to directly your career development, right. So, we need to link potential appraisal and career development, right. For example, if you look at performance versus potential matrix, and we identified current stars and future stars, right. So, for them you can go for career planning and development, because you need to retain and deal with these critical resources, because if a person is a star, right, it means that he is high performing, high potential employees, right. So, you have identified their potential, right, and he has been performing well, that it means that you need to deal with them, you need to retain them with the organization, because he becomes a critical resource, right. So, make sure that this potential appraisal is used for better career planning, okay, so that you are able to engage employees or engage talent, okay, and for that you need to have a good career plan, because that is going to help you to motivate them to continue with the job. Another thing is succession plan. So, career planning and succession planning can be linked with each other, right. So, the basic idea of a potential appraisal is that who is going to be the next best. Okay. So, what you do? You identify capabilities for the key areas and positions, and then you identify who could be the successor, and the successor is identified based on the potential of the employees. Now, if you look at this person, so this person if he has the capabilities and the potential, then this good person could succeed this person, right, and that is why it is linked with the succession planning. Now, if you look at managing succession, okay, so the idea here is what? So, succession planning is a part of your talent management strategy, right, is not it? So, you need to plan and source your talent, assess their potential, deploy them into those jobs, so that they are engaged, and you also link with the reward and develop them, right. So, that is a part of your talent management strategy, and talent management is being used as a succession plan, right. Now, you have to identify those leaders who have the potential. You remember we talked about potential versus performance leadership assessment. So, you need to identify future leaders. They could not be rough diamond, they could be either current stars or the future stars. Okay. So, you need to identify people with the kind of experience, values and competencies which would be required to take up leadership positions, and then you go for a succession plan and see that how you are going to engage and manage the talent, okay, and make sure that there is a supply of ready successor, right, with quick transition. Otherwise, what will happen? There would be a gap. So, you need to have a strategy for succession planning as well as talent management both. So, you need to engage future stars and current stars in such a way, so that they are groomed on a regular basis, on a continuous basis, so that they could take up leadership positions without being a vacuum. Because if you look at the experience of the many organizations, when senior people leave, there are no successors. So, then again you look for successors from outside, because you do not have a succession plan to groom and develop your talent within the organization. So, if you have a good succession plan, by identifying the potential of employees and allow them to be groomed and developed, so that your succession plan is very effective, and that is why you need to have a good succession plan in the organization. Now, similarly, this potential appraisal is also linked with other HR systems like feedback and counseling. So, you can feed them back. Suppose let us take example of rough diamond. So, rough diamond means they have high potential, but low performance. So, they need to be polished and groomed. So, they need to be counseled and given feedback that yes, you can do it, you need to realize your potential, you need to develop yourself, and that is where you go for feedback and counseling. You also need to train them through job rotations, okay, and then you can use the data of performance and identify who has the potential, right. You can also use for manpower planning. So, you can see that who is doing what kind of job very well. So, put the right kind of people for the right kind of job, right, and also engage them better. So, you can link a potential appraisal with other HR systems very well, right. Now, if you look at the current status and experience in Indian organizations, that is not very appreciative in nature, because they are yet to focus their attention on potential appraisal. Though there are lot of growth opportunities available, okay, and there are high mobile executives, because you have not been able to manage or retain and manage your potential very well, especially consistent stars, right, high performing and high potential employees, right. And many organizations are not even interested to invest their time and effort to identify and develop potentials, because they think that it is not their job. They are only limited to what you call performance appraisal, but if they are going to have a good potential appraisal system in place in addition to performance management, or they make potential appraisal as a part of the performance management system, then it is good, they would be able to identify potentials, they would be able to groom and them, and they will have a good succession planning and career development, right. But many organizations do not take these activities because they find that it is time consuming. So, they do not look at it. So, it is important that now Indian organizations should also focus on these kind of things and see to it that how they can make use of potential appraisal in a better way. Because if look at the benefits of the potential appraisal, what happens? You will be able to polish your rough diamonds, you will be able to identify low performing, low potential employees, have a separation plan for them. If you will be able to identify those who are current stars and future stars, especially moderate performers or high potentials or high performers and moderate potentials. So, they need to be developed so that they could be groomed and developed for better succession plan. Similarly, you also need to retain and engage high performing and high potential employees, okay, because they are going to be a critical resource for your organization. So, you do not want to do away with that kind of resource, right. So, if you are really interested to retain and manage critical resource, that is high potential and high performance employees, you need to ensure that they are better engaged, you have a talent management strategy in place, so that these kind of employees are able to perform very well, right. With this, we are going to conclude this session. Thank you very much.